A millionaire invites his ex-wife to his wedding hoping to see her suffer, but she brings their 3 sons, and the truth changes everything. Nathan Hale sat in his sleek, glass-walled office, a towering testament to his triumph. The room perched high above the bustling metropolis below, like a throne carved out of steel and ambition. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city moved in its endless rhythm of power and pursuit. Cars rushing through arteries of concrete, men and women hurrying to their destinations, corporations rising and falling with every tick of the stock market. But inside this fortress of affluence, Nathan was unshakable. He had built this life with cold precision, brick by calculated brick. From the ground up, he had forged an empire, sacrificing relationships, friendships, anything and anyone that didn't align with his relentless ascent. He had played the long game, made ruthless decisions without flinching, and now, in his early 40s, he was one of the most powerful men in the country. Nathan Hale had it all, or so he believed. His upcoming wedding to Celeste Davenport, Hollywood's reigning queen of elegance and allure, was more than just a personal milestone. It was a spectacle of power, meticulously orchestrated and designed to cement his place at the zenith of society. In 2 weeks' time, the elite of business, politics, and entertainment would gather at his sprawling coastal estate to witness the event of the year. Lavish didn't begin to describe it. Every flower, every guest, every moment had been planned to perfection. But as Nathan reviewed the final draft of the guest list that afternoon, a dark idea rooted itself deep in his mind. At first, it was a passing thought, then it lingered, tempting him. A cruel smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. Madeline Carter. Her name slipped into his thoughts like a ghost from another life. His ex-wife. Once, she had been everything to him. She had stood by him when he was just an ambitious man with little more than big dreams and endless determination. Back then, before he had hardened into the man he was now, he'd loved her, passionately, possessively. But love, as it turned out, was a luxury Nathan Hale had never been able to afford. Madeline wanted things he could not, or rather, would not give: time, partnership, presence. In the end, she walked away. She had told him he loved his ambition more than he loved her. And she had been right. After she left, Nathan moved on with ruthless efficiency. He built Hale Global into a corporate juggernaut and surrounded himself with people who bowed to power or risked irrelevance. But now, sitting in his office, Nathan couldn't resist the idea of her seeing him now, what she had given up. It was too delicious an opportunity to ignore. He pressed a button on his intercom. "Jessica," he said smoothly, calling his personal assistant. "Send an invitation to Madeline Carter. Make sure it's hand-delivered." There was a pause, a flicker of hesitation in Jessica's voice. "Madeline Carter? Sir, are you certain?" "Yes," Nathan replied, his tone cold and unyielding. "Let's see if curiosity gets the better of her." And with that, the trap was set. Madeline Carter stood in the sun-drenched studio of her modest home. The scent of fresh paint and turpentine lingered in the air as she added the final touches to a canvas bursting with raw color and emotion. Art had become her refuge, a place to pour everything she had once given to Nathan Hale. Her life now was a far cry from the world of luxury and high society she had known. But it was real. It was hers. And it was full. Her 3 sons, Lucas, Aiden, and Noah, were her world. She had raised them alone, through sacrifice and determination, without once regretting her decision to leave Nathan. At least, that's what she had believed. Until the day the envelope arrived. Thick, cream-colored, and bearing the embossed logo of Hale Global, it was impossible to ignore. Madeline nearly tossed it aside. But something, curiosity, perhaps closure, prompted her to open it. The elegant script within read: Mr. Nathan Hale and MS. Celeste Davenport cordially invite you to celebrate their union. She read it twice, then a third time, her fingers tightening around the paper. For a long moment, she simply stared at it, a storm of emotions whirling beneath the calm surface she had carefully constructed over the years. Part of her wanted to burn it. But another part, the part that had grown restless as her sons grew older and began asking questions about their father, felt something else. It wasn't regret. No, she had never regretted leaving Nathan. It was unfinished business. Maybe it was time. Maybe they deserved to know the man he was. And maybe Nathan needed to see what he had walked away from. With a deep breath, Madeline folded the invitation neatly and placed it on the counter. She would go. Not for him, for them. The day of Nathan Hale's wedding dawned clear and bright. The estate perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, a modern marvel of glass and steel, humming with activity. Guests arrived in sleek black cars, stepping onto a crimson carpet that led to the grand hall. Uniformed staff moved through the crowd with the precision of a military drill, offering champagne and guiding people to their places. Nathan stood near the entrance, his tailored tuxedo a flawless extension of his power and precision. Celeste, by his side, was radiant in a couture gown that shimmered like stardust. Together, they were the embodiment of success and status. But as the final guests filed in, Nathan's gaze kept drifting toward the doors. She hadn't RSVP'd. She hadn't sent a word. He told himself it didn't matter. And then the doors opened. A hush fell over the grand hall. Heads turned. Conversations faded into silence. Madeline entered the room with an effortless grace, wearing a simple yet elegant dress that whispered confidence. Time hadn't diminished her. It had honed her. She was no longer the young woman who had once stood in Nathan's shadow. She was something else entirely now. Whole, complete, untouchable. But it wasn't just Madeline who commanded attention. 3 boys walked beside her, each dressed in a sharp, dark suit. Lucas, Aiden, and Noah. Their hands were clasped in hers as they took in the grandeur of the hall. But it was their faces, so unmistakably Nathan's, that sent a ripple through the crowd. Gasps, whispers, glances. The resemblance was undeniable. Nathan's heart slammed against his ribs as recognition thundered through him. His sons. His. Victoria tensed beside him, her fingers tightening on his arm. Her expression remained composed, but Nathan could feel the fury radiating from her in waves. Madeline met his gaze across the room, calm and steady. She hadn't come for spectacle. She hadn't come for revenge. She had come because their sons deserved to know who he was.